What's up, everybody? Trent here, excited to kick off my very new channel called Trent Draw, where I show you some of the tips and tricks of how I like to draw in Illustrator. I kind of consider myself one of those untraditional Illustrator artists because I draw mostly with the mouse. Now, I know that's a little bit weird, but for those that feel like they're a little less strong with drawing with a stylus, I think this is to your benefit. Plus, I think anybody can pick this up. Now, how I learned was in college between my classes, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go to the graphic design lab and I'm just going to go draw in Illustrator and teach myself new tricks. So most of the stuff you see here are not things you generally see around the web, but things I taught myself. So I hope it's insightful and educational, and more than anything, it's fun. Let's go and get started. Today we're going to be drawing Paper Mario. Woohoo! I'm super excited for this one. We're actually going to just draw his head for now and see how far along we get, but the concepts and principles kind of spread across the board here. I'm not going to trace the Paper Mario in here. I'm going to show you how I draw it side by side using kind of ratio and using the guides to figure out spacings and size and stuff like that. And then we'll use a little bit of time on color and shading. Alright, so let's get diving right into it. I'm going to hit Command R. Of course, I'm on a Mac. Command R brings up the ruler tool. And I'm going to drag down from there and just mark where the top of his hat is. I'll kind of go about there, just kind of see where we're at. And I will go down to the bottom of his chin. Again, this just gives me some good ratio marks. There's the bottom of his nose, kind of center of his ear as well, and maybe the top of his nose there. And those are just kind of my good beginning ratio marks for drawing Paper Mario. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I have that one now locked over here on this side. And let's get our ellipse tool ready. L is the shortcut for that bad boy. And we need an oval, kind of a tall oval. It's kind of interesting because looking at the shape, you feel like his head's pretty wide, and actually his ear is pretty heavily weighted on this side. But I'm just going to draw an oval-like shape. I do need to go down to that bottom line because that's where his chin is, and it's about that wide. And I'm going to hit the eye for eyedropper tool and just grab that color. It didn't fill in the line, but that's okay. We'll do that in a second. I'll just compare real quick. Yeah, that's pretty dang close. Wow. Kind of eyeballed that. If I didn't eyeball that, you can adjust it, pull on the sides a little bit, make a tweak. Now I want a thick line. I'm going to utilize Illustrator's line tools and border tools, and it's not going to match up identically, and that is one downside to using the mouse and not drawing more with the stylus, is that you don't get the beautiful tapered lines you could by hand. Granted, that takes a little bit more skill set with your hand drawing. That's okay. So I'm going to come up here to the outline tool and get the black line. And let's just kind of see where our thickness belongs. Almost 16. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now there's places where it goes thinner, and there's like a thinner black line. This line's really thick. And there's also places where it tapers, or it fades off at the end, or stays kind of a solid width across one side. So we're kind of varied between the two of those. I'll go back and forth, probably between flattening some of those line outlines and keeping some of them solid shape. Okay, so now that we've got his head, let's go ahead and get his nose. I'm going to grab the ellipse tool again, and I love to just draw a whole bunch of ovals. We're just going to go kind of oval crazy here. And yeah, we'll get that kind of general shape. Hit the V tool, drag that around just a bit. We can see the black line goes over this top line just a little bit. We'll bring this in just a hair. We may end up bringing this up just a bit more, but his mustache kind of comes down sort of far. So we'll do some tweaking there. Also, look at his nose. We have some tapering going on. What I'm going to do to mimic that in Illustrator is I'm going to select this tool. I'm going to hit C for cut, the cutting tool, any of the little scissors, right? It's technically called the scissor tool. And I'm going to clip it about here and down here. Those are the two places we've got to click right on that line. I'm going to hit V and select the part I clicked out and delete it. So I hit the delete key. Now we're going to go get our taper. Now I'm going to use the variable width profiles default Illustrator. You don't have to create any new ones. We could create new ones. Maybe I'll do another tutorial about that later. I'm going to use some default ones. So I'm just going to use this first default taper, and it may not match up identically. You know what? That's okay. I'm just going to scrunch it up just a little bit because his nose is probably not quite as an elongated oval, and it's tipped just a little bit if you look really closely there. Also, his nose black line on this left side is pretty thick, so we're going to want to bring that up just a bit. Maybe we'll go as high as 20 just for now. We may go back and update that just a bit and that's okay too. Lots of time to go back and update. Also, as we go and you're watching this, feel free to leave comments in the video comments, or subscribe as we go. You're going to want to follow along. We're going to do lots more videos just like this one. Okay, so there. Now we have his nose in place. And we're going to want to start doing things that start marking out his face. Like, I'll know better where the eyes go once I kind of have the hat or the ear or the mustache. Let's go ahead and move to the mustache shape. I'm going to take my pen tool, so P for pen tool. And I'm just going to click right here. I don't want to click on that spot. I'll end up drawing off the edge of his nose. I'm just going to click here and here. And now we're going to bring it down, click and pull. Then I'm going to grab the option tool, bring that back to its vertex. And then I'm going to do another click and pull. And then I'll take the option tool, bring that back to its vertex. That means it won't give us a double adjusted line as I pull. When I do that, it gives me kind of a straight go at curving the next part of his mustache, and that's why I pull that straight again every time. Okay, there's that. I'm going to pull that one more time down, and then he has a slight, I'm going to make some adjustments. We've gone a little bit too far, too crazy with his curly mustache here, but that's actually okay. We're going to bring this down, and I'm going to close the shape off by bringing it back here. We're going to end up needing to smooth that off, but for now, I'm going to hit the eyedropper tool. Let's go turn that kind of to the brown. I know there's a little bit of gradient and shading going on there. We can address that later. And we kind of get the rough in of his mustache. Now, what I want to do is clean this up just a bit. I'm going to grab the curvature tool, also one of the coolest tools. You can do Shift tilde to get the shortcut. I use this tool quite religiously in kind of just straightening out my circles, pulling these in the directions so that they look a little bit more uniform. Now this part of his mustache, if you look closely, was kind of tucked underneath his nose, and there's a small part of this end curl that went under his nose. This last little loop here was a part that came down. So we can balance that out. And hey, maybe you do your own variable version of his mustache, make it look a little bit more fun. I'm going to grab the P tool, and I actually don't like this vertex here, so I'm going to click it to get rid of it. I'm going to go Shift tilde to go back to curvature tool and bring this back down because it's actually a curved line. Cool. We're starting to get that in shape the way we like it, but we want, this mustache should be behind the nose. And by the way, if you're curious, I'm zooming out by holding Option and then on the Magic Mouse just zooming in and out. Obviously that'd be your scroll on your non-Magic Mouse. Yeah, so we have the mustache. We're going to put it right here, and it's got to go behind his nose. You see the thick line of his nose is going to go in front of it. So I'm going to hit Command and the left square bracket just once. Because there's only 3 layers of shapes on there, it automatically goes back one. I can also right-click and do Arrange, Send Backward. We don't want to send it backward to go right behind his head. But that gets us kind of in a general place where we want to be. And now, this is interesting because his nose is a tapered line, but his mustache pretty much stays the same thickness all the way around. I'm going to go up here to my outline tool, grab the outline, and let's go ahead and set that up around. That's a little bit too thick. Let's go 14 for now. You can see our shape's already starting to come together pretty well. I just tap that down a little bit because I don't want to see like a tip of the edge of the tapered line coming out. Now if we compare side by side, my mustache doesn't match up equally. What am I doing? I'm going a little too crazy here. But you can go back and tweak that as we go, and that's totally fine. Lots of opportunity. The one thing I love so much about Illustrator, it's all vector, right? So we can go back and change it how we need to. In fact, if we look here, this is a bit of a curved line. Mine's kind of a sharp line. I'm going to click on that, and if I have my stroke panel open, I can actually tell that to curve the corners, and then we get this much more unique, or more like this corner turn right there. Of course, we could smooth that off with the smooth tool, but using the line tool and the corners on that outline cleans that up a little bit better. All right, so next step. Let's go ahead and get some next things in place. Let's go ahead and do his mouth. His mouth's interesting. It'll tell us a lot about how close we got this mustache. Now, we should be pretty accurate already because we know nose to chin. We have that generally in the right vicinity. Let's go ahead and get the ellipse tool back out and draw a little circle. Yeah, it's kind of a tight oval, and it's a little bit rotated forward. So I hit the V tool and I slide that forward just a pinch, and I'm going to hit Command square bracket, or if you want to right click, see this, send backward one, because that will go, we want to go backward. Actually, we want backward too, because we have the nose and the mustache itself. Okay, so thin that out just a little bit, and if you look, his mouth line's a little bit thinner than his mustache line, so maybe we go down to 12, maybe we go down to 10. We'll just use some of the preset Illustrator defaults, just because we don't always have to set our own. Okay, now I haven't grabbed the color. His mouth's brown, looks like he's been eating chocolate, so let's go grab that color from his mouth, and now we'll go reset our 10 width on our point. Okay, starting to get a little closer. If we look at it, we want to see, oops, I'm going to grab that. Look at it, we want to tip that just a little bit. Starting to get kind of the general placement of his mouth. Maybe it's a little bit tighter than that. Start to see things come together just a little bit. And how I match things up is I can see that his mouth's coming down from this loop on his mustache, and that's kind of where ours is. In fact, maybe pull that just a little bit further. Anyway, you can adjust the mouth. If you're like, no, I think that should be way more angled. We can also skew it because we kind of get a tipped angle on the mouth. You're welcome to do that too. We'll just go as far as that, make some tweaks as we go. Let's go ahead and get a tongue layer in there. And I'm just going to double click on a layer. When I do that, it's kind of nice because it zooms in right on where that piece is. Now, I say layer, but technically we're all on the layer, on just one layer, drawing this head shape. I haven't changed the multiple layers. But when you click on something, each thing kind of has its own individual isolation layer. And that's kind of where we're at here. If I double click something, it goes into isolation mode and treats it as if I'm drawing at this level and I back out, whatever I drew at this level would still be behind the mustache and the nose, which is really awesome. So let's go and get our pen tool. I don't want to click on this line, it'll start doing funky things to my line. I'm going to click here and just draw kind of a tongue pull there. I'm going to switch over the curvature tool and bring that back over. And his tongue line is even thinner than his mouth line. I'm going to double click that, just exit that. You can see that that tongue over here is thinner on that side. So let's go change that up to, yeah, 6 actually isn't that bad. And it's a lighter color. We'll just quickly grab our color tool. We'll go back to 6 on this. I do this a lot. I select the outline, then I realize I need to go color pick. And it's often best to just set up your palette before you even get that far. So lots of different things you can do. I'm kind of going unorthodox, out of order here, but that's okay too. And you'll quickly learn, and many of my students, I actually teach code on the side for fun. Many of my students know I'm a little bit scrambled-brained, but we get the job done. All right, so there's the shape of Mario's, Paper Mario's mouth. I'm going to go ahead and thicken this line on his nose. As I'm looking back at that, it's like it's just not quite as thick as I want. Let's go 24. That's a little closer to this thick line we see over here. Of course, it is kind of matched with his arm line. Okay, we got nose, mustache, and a mouth in place. We're ready to move on to the next piece. Let's go ahead and do the ear. Now, let's try something a little bit stranger. Let's make his nose his ear. They're similar shapes, right? And we talk about pseudocode all the time when you're doing code, meaning reuse things. So why don't we reuse things when we draw them? So I'm going to hit Command-C, Command-V. I'm going to rotate that bad boy. And voila, we're starting to get a Mario ear. Now, we can match up our lines here, which is good, right? That gives us kind of some context. See how my line's coming midway through there. And that ear is a little bit thicker than I want. I'm going to go back down to 20. Shrink it down just a little bit. But it is interesting. His ear is pretty big. I mean, he's got to be one of the biggest ear Dumbo-like Marios you'll ever see. Potentially ever. And I'm using this kind of center point here, since it's so near the center of this blue line, to kind of match that up. Okay. And it is also interesting, this stops right here, so we could go and cut that line and make it a little bit thinner. So if we were to zoom in, see, it doesn't taper in through his face like this one does. We go in there and we say cut it right there. I'm going to go remove that piece. And then we'll go make some adjustments just to smooth that out a pinch more. Kind of line that up. Again, a little bit variant, but the idea here is we're not using the pen tool, and we're getting kind of some different shapes and things out of it. I'm just going to make some tweaks here as I go. But yeah, and you're welcome to tweak it. You're like, you know, I think that should go a little further left. That should go a little further to the right. You go ahead and give it a try. Experimentation is the best way to learn. And also, fail at it a couple times, and you'll really pick up, and you'll remember, hey, I tried that last time. It didn't work. I know I need to do this. And that's actually how you'll learn really fast. All right, so now we have his ear in place. Let's get some ear lines on there. He's got kind of this funky E shape to his ear. We can do that pretty quickly. Let's grab the curvature tool, and I'm just going to click 1, 2, 3. Love the curvature tool. How quickly you can make kind of a half circle. We're going to jump that up to like 16 and go uniform and give us that really cool shape. Granted, if you look at this one in the variation in shape, the taper's not going to match because this one's kind of an auto taper versus that one's most likely kind of a hand-drawn taper. But we'll get it pretty dang close, and that's okay too. All right, so there's that part right there. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit further. We will get a little more piece up out of that. Curve, bring that down. And it's got a fill on it. In fact, we could take both of these and say, I don't want a fill. I just want the line. I'm going to shrink that down just a bit. Mess around. Also thin that out just a bit more. Kind of start getting the same E shape out of the ear. It's kind of a fun cartoon-like ear shape. And maybe just a little bit more slid over. Now if we want to keep some good ratio, we can also flatten this down. So I would say Object, Expand Appearances. It merges those down into like shapes instead of outlines. And then as I resize them, they don't go too crazy on me. I'm going to hit on the Pathfinder, I'm going to hit Unite. It makes them one shape. And then I can just bring that down. I won't lose any quality. And if we're to do that with outlines, it starts going a little bit funky because it'll stay a thick line but shrink the actual physical line, and it won't stay the same ratio you like. Okay, so there's that piece. Let's go ahead and move on to his hat. And then with the hat in place, we'll really know how to place his eyes in the right place. And then we'll get down to some gradient coloring and some shadows, and we'll get right through this. All right, so looking at where his hat comes, we look here, his hat comes about middle of his, middle top of his ear, about that same spot right there. I'm going to go ahead and grab, in fact, we're going to drag and we're going to draw this main part of his hat first. So I'm going to click here with the pen tool, and I'll just come down. It'll be a little bit rough. We'll have to go back and make some adjustments. But there's his hat. Now this is going to tuck behind the visor, so keep in mind we're doing the top part of the hat first. And we're going to click there, and you're like, that doesn't look right. I'm going to grab Shift tilde and bring that guy up. Now it looks like he's wearing a taxi hat. Now our shape, we want the front of it to come up just a hair more. And I'm going to complete the shape, and we'll bring that back up to the kind of line we expect out. Now it's going to hide behind the visor, so that's not entirely pertinent to what we're doing. I'm going to hit the eyedropper tool. That's a really thick black line. In fact, what we're really going for is the guy that's coming out of this. So let's go ahead and get a thick black line on there. Let's go with that shape for now. And we'll have to do some molding. It's kind of like clay. We'll get our shapes in place, and then we kind of mold them around how we like to see happen. Let's get the bump drawn back here. In fact, that could be done with as simple as just drawing kind of a circle. So I'll grab the ellipse tool, and then I'll just right-click, arrange, and send to back. And that comes back there. Now we kind of get this funky thing going on here. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this shape and taper it just like we did the nose. So let's go ahead and get our scissor tool, and I'm going to actually cut it about there. We're going to blend that into the ear just so that's where the solid black line stops. And we'll click there, and then I'm going to grab my selection tool and delete that, and then we'll need our tapering, just our automatic width profile. And we're going to go a little bit bigger on this, guys. Go up to 20. It's a pretty thick line. And then I'm going to go back over to my curvature tool and just pull that back over just a bit more. We'll need some adjustments as we go. And another thing to keep in mind here is we'll bring that line right up to there. Okay, good. Now that's in place. Mess with this visor line just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna bring that down just a bit. And we can go back and make a few more tweaks there. This line is actually way thicker over on this side, so we'll probably go a little bit more extreme, go more like 30. It's interesting to see the differences in line widths on his face and hat and things like that. We're starting to get, I didn't mean to make that rhyme, sorry, Dr. Seuss. Okay, so got things all lined up. We're going to cover this up kind of with both his sideburn and with his visor side, so this will look a lot more clean. But also I can push that behind his ear, and then we don't get such a funny line. In fact, we can just duck that down just a bit, and then we lose that section. If we need to thicken, we're going to get a hard, thick line over on this side, and that'll occur here in just a minute. Okay, so there's the top part of the hat. We're going to have to get the visor in place first to kind of know where the M goes. So let's go ahead and move to the visor section. Let's grab our pen tool, and we'll start about, give him enough room for his sideburn. It's going to come here. We'll bring it out. We're just going to chalk it in a little bit rough. That should be okay. Grab the curvature tool and bring this down over here just a bit. It gives it a thick line if I grab off the top of that one, but I need to lower the line width just a bit. We're going to, again, change these outline harsh levels by clicking right there on the corner softener. And then we need to clean this up just a bit. In fact, there's probably just one too many. Hit the pen tool, get rid of that. There's one too many pen lines in there. Sometimes it's best to just simplify your shape, and that gets the job done. Okay, we're going to move this up. Obviously, he's going to have room for his eyes. Can't see his eyes, and then we got a problem. Okay, so just eyeballing it, we're trying to look where that visor is. Visor, according to that line, begins about here. So that's going to be our base, and we've gone a little bit crazy with it. Oops. Curvature tools being all sorts of fun. Sometimes it does that, and I don't love when it makes a new vertex. That's not always the coolest thing. So sometimes it misbehaves, but we can quickly snap it back into behaving for us. Okay, so that comes out a little bit further there. This will actually kind of cover things up here. We just really want to make sure we have shape and room for his eyes. That's the most important part. And I know we can still see that line under there. We're actually going to cover all that up with black in the background, so that really won't matter. Another thing to consider is this ducks under while this pulls out, so maybe we pull that out just a bit. I'm going to hit the P tool, hold Option, and snap that just so that we can sharpen just a bit so that we get kind of the right curve shape on the underneath of his visor there. Now sometimes these lines get really wonky. When they do, I'll grab the smooth tool and I will smooth them until they feel a little bit better. And that feels a little bit better. Okay, so there's kind of our visor shape, and we're starting to make this thing come together. Okay, so now his visor's in shape. Drag that down just a bit. Actually, maybe up, because we still need to watch this line here. Okay, so we've got a lot of things in place, mainly shape-wise. Another thing to consider, I think we've gone a little bit too far with this shape, because if you look where his visor is versus the top of his hat, I don't think that comes out so far. And that makes it easier for our visor to hang out about that much. And yeah, that's about where we're at now. Plus, it tightens up the look of the fact that it's his cool plumber's cap. And yeah, start getting the shape we really want out of it. Okay, we'll bring that up just a pinch. Okay, now let's go ahead and get his eyes in shape. Just grab the ellipse tool with L, and obviously they're just big black ovals. You can kind of size them up by drawing them somewhat in the general vicinity. That looks creepy. Let's go eyedropper that black circle. It's just faster just to eyedrop right on that black oval. And they're slightly tilted. If we look at perspective-wise, it comes off the top of his mustache just a bit. And it's pretty darn close to the top. I mean, just a pinch off the top of that visor could be right about there. We'll bring his nose down just a pinch, maybe out just a bit. Again, there's always a fine-tuning process. We're going to Command-C, Command-V that eye, and go up here, get that guy. And if we look, it's pretty close to the side of the oval's head. Now that looks really funny, like his eyes come off his nose, but I'll hit the Go Behind or Arrange Behind tool. Start to get things in shape. And his nose is just not quite lined up how we want. In fact, it doesn't taper out quite that fast, so we have to go through and make a few minor detail adjustments. We're starting to get things a bit more into place. We're going to tip his hat up probably just a bit more. It feels a little bit cramped on that side. Yeah, that feels a lot better actually. Okay, get his eyes up there just a pinch more. And about distance from his eyes, looks pretty close. Maybe a little drawn just a hair closer. And that's starting to come together for us just how we like it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get the dark shape over here for the side of his hat. It kind of covers up this fupa right here. We can clip and trim that if we really want to. It doesn't matter all that much because all I'm really needing to do is clip here and clip here and kind of bend it. And I'm just going to complete that shape. And I'm just going to eyedropper his eye because that's really all it is. Let's go Arrange, Send to Back. And then we'll go through and just make it look more like his actual drawing. I'm going to grab the Curvature tool. The Curvature tool is my sculpture tool in disguise. Use it very religiously on kind of the sculpting side of things. In fact, this comes down. So we have to be kind of careful with that shape there. That's a little bit wonky. In fact, I think that visor will come up just a bit more. We got some really funky stuff going on back there with the top of that shape. We can go fix that. If we select this guy and hit the pen tool, we can just remove one of those vertices by clicking on it, and that sort of cleans that up. Not like that's a huge deal, but you can see that wasn't the coolest thing. His visor, wow, it feels like we didn't, this thing's like sagging down. I feel like we need to bring that up quite a bit. Let's bring that up, and that allows us to curve this back out just a hair more. That looks a little bit more natural. As I draw these things, I'm like, yeah, I got that right. Oh, wait, I need to go repurpose that shape just a bit more because it doesn't look quite right. Sometimes when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, eyeballing it gets a little bit crazy. Now I'm going to hit the A tool, and I'm going to bring this edge in just a bit, and then we'll go adjust for that because it's more rounded right there. And I'm going to grab the Curvature tool and round out that hat shape just a bit. It's always about fine-tuning and tweaking shapes in different ways. And hey, maybe you want to change up Paper Mario just a little bit more and make him more your own. You be my guest. How about you make a zombie Paper Mario? You go right ahead and change it up. Have some fun. All right, let's go ahead and get his we'll get his Sideburn in there. And we'll do that by grabbing the pen tool. I'm just going to click and get some rough shapes in there, and then we'll go make some adjustments. We can just kind of see by looking at it, it's just kind of, it's like a little camel down here. 2 camel bumps on there, and I'm just going to, in fact, I don't even have to worry about closing that one entirely. Now, in the turn in your drawing to a stock photo approach, you need to close all your shapes. So please note, they recommend closing all your shapes no matter what. I mean, you could screw up some EPSs if you hand those over to people and they're like, what did you just hand me? And line tools and things like that can vary, so you're supposed to merge down or expand all your shapes. So just keep that in mind. Now, you can't turn this in, obviously, to make money. Mario is copyrighted material. I probably should have said that right up front, but I think we all know that. And this is really just for educational purposes. So as you know, that's what I'm accomplishing here. This one tapers, so it's going from back to front here. Starts out as a taper. I'll grab my curvature tool. I'll just start lining that guy up where I, whoops, I did not want to drag off the end of that. Oh, it just wants to make me. It's in one of those modes. I'm going to hit P tool, get rid of that. In fact, go back to curvature tool, and we'll just start lining it up. Zoom out here, kind of make sure, if we look at it, we can see that I'm not far enough down, and his shape comes further down. Another really cool tool or cool feature as of newer Illustrator is you go to Object, Path, and Simplify. What that does is it takes away vertices that would normally make it complex to start changing it. Obviously, it smooths it out as well, and I don't want like a hard shape there. In fact, I'll go get rid of that one now. Oops. We want that little minus icon to appear over that, but we really just want to get some round shapes. But the idea here too was to pull down until we get that. Again, it's kind of like sculpting our clay. Just getting everything in place. That would be kind of a funny haircut for Mario right there. Just take off his sideburns. Kind of like the idea of having that stick out just a bit more. And we're starting to get close to what we like here. And yeah, getting that in place. It's a little bit more smooth. So this angle right here, if I bring that down, I can kind of get that. I grab it's called the direct selection tool, and if you select that spot, it shows us these little icons that bring down sharp edges, and that's what we want, right? We don't want like a really hard dagger there. We want it to be rounded on the outline. Okay, so we kind of have some funky stuff going on here to kind of bury that, and this is a little bit of a jimmy rig as far as the drawing goes, but we can bury that further by making a line that just matches up with this guy. So I'll just grab the pen tool real quick, and this is going to be messy at first. We'll go adjust it, but I'm just trying to get a line across there. And as I select it, in fact, I'm going to select the visor, get rid of the fill, and let's line some stuff up. It just kind of continues with the shape of his visor anyway. And then we're going to have to go make some adjustments to how that sideburn comes out there, because what we really want is to make it look like this line continues down that shape. Start to get that just a little bit. There we go. That's kind of what we want to do. Okay, now I'm going to grab the tool, get that down, and to make an adjustment for that, let's go bring his hat behind here down. We'll make sure that we don't have, well, that's, make sure we find what line that is. Oh, that wasn't what it was. Oh, that's the outline of his head. We could actually even just bring up his ear just a bit if we wanted to. Cover that up just a pinch. And then this line right here, go back to the curvature tool and ease that up. Because you can see there's a lot of fine tuning and tweaking as it comes down to it. Even if you're going to throw a little variation on here, there's always a little bit of work to do. I love the smooth tool, so I'll just come over here, grab this tool. Looks like there's like a swirly line around the pencil. And I grab that, and I smooth out my corners and things. This makes them look a little bit more professional. Takes away kind of the harshness of it all. We're starting to get Paper Mario in the place we want to. So you can mess around with this a little further if you're like, you know, that looks a little longer. Let's push that back, tilt it a little bit more. Again, always tweaking the detail process here. It's really interesting looking at this drawing. I pulled this one off the internet, and his mustache is darker here. The sideburns lighter here, but you can see there's some shading going on. And we can address that as well. But for the most part, we kind of have our guy in shape. His nose looks a little bit flat. Let's go ahead and bump that back up. And maybe I'll, as I kind of reshape that just a bit, I don't want his nose to look too flat. Also, where it's not really a pure, well, we had a real good oval here, and here it kind of flattens out. I could grab the curvature tool and kind of make his nose feel a little bit more stubby, or even just like point it up a little bit. Not like Mario walks around with his nose in the air, right? He's not a cocky guy. Or is he? It does say in Mario Kart that he's always going to win, so I don't know. It might just be that way. Okay, and then we have general shapes, sizes of Paper Mario going on here. And yeah, you can see that our lines have really helped us start getting things at least proportionally in shape. We have a lot of adjustment to do, but let's go ahead and let's move to something a little bit more fun. Let's go get this oval for his hat. I'm going to grab the ellipse tool again. Use L if you want. I will make my oval shape. I'm going to hit the I tool, just grab white. That's not too bad. All right, I'm going to copy that, hit Command-C and delete, and then I'm going to double-click right here. Remember, that brings us into that layer spot. I'm just going to drag and stop it right there. Kind of get that in shape. Click out of that area. And it needs an outline. We've got a black outline on there, about a 10 probably. Yeah, that looks about right. You can see shape-wise, his hat needs to tighten up on this end and kind of stick up more, because you can determine that by how much gap we have here and kind of the just in general the shapes you see. And again, no matter how much we try to sugarcoat that, there is a side of design that is looking at things and changing them based on drawing by eye. That is a little bit of a thing here, but we can get pretty close. Now this line looks a little wonky. I like to smooth that out. There we go. That makes it feel a little bit more like the shape I'm going for. And proportional-wise, we're going to get pretty close to that line here, how close that is to the edge of his hat. And then maybe we bring that up just a bit. Of course, we can grab the curvature tool and kind of misshape this just a hair, not so that it looks like it's too off, but it is a little bit askew because, I mean, he's not looking straight at us. And that's okay. All right, let's go ahead and get the little M on there. You can use the mouse tool even from this angle. I'll zoom in just a bit, and I'll even draw it straight out here. So let's hit P for the mouse tool, and let's just get a basic M shape. It's kind of a funny, sloppy M. Of course, we could really just trace this off his hat. If we're going for exacts, you could trace this right over the top of his hat just to see if you got it right, or you can go freewheel style like I just did there. And I'm going to I tool that. I kind of got the legs on that. I got that way thicker than I thought. The direct selection tool let me move vertices in a way that I want to adjust them. You can see we got a little bit. You can also just click straight on a line. You can move a whole section of a line. That works pretty well. And let's just get it over here. And actually, I'm going to hit Command-C, delete. Double click on the M or on that circle, hit V, and now paste it pretty much to that layer side, and even if it cuts off a little bit, that M goes behind. Now I know theirs doesn't quite, that's okay. We can make some adjustments, tilt it maybe just a little bit more. When we're on the regular selection tool with V, if I come near those corners, I can always rotate things, sort of center things out just a bit. You can see it's not quite center, and of course, again, he's not looking straight at us, so that's okay. So yeah, we're starting to get the shape of Paper Mario in there. Let's finish this awesome guy up by getting a little bit of coloring and fade on his nose. We get a little bit of shadow. On his ear, we get a little bit of shadow, and then we'll do a little bit of shadow behind his mustache that we see right here. So I'm going to grab his nose shape, hit Command-C, Command-V, and we're going to duplicate that shape. I'm going to hit the eyedropper tool, and we're going to get this dark color. Now it just fills that in, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is come up here, I'm going to save that as a color. Now it appears in my palette, and of course, like I said, if you're going to turn this into somebody, you close your shapes off. Another thing we want to do is select something that's regular skin color and save that. This just makes it easier to grab from the gradient perspective. And now I'm going to take this, put it over his nose, and shrink it just a little bit. Holding the Shift button will get us a proportional shrink on that size. And now we have kind of this hard color. We don't want that hard color. We're going to hit the gradient tool. So come over here to our gradient panel, hit the line, or I should say the linear gradient. Double click on that white. We want the dark color. Double click on the black. We want the light color there. And almost automatically that lined it up pretty well for us. I can grab this gradient tool here. If I click over here and grab the gradient tool, I can fade that off in a way that I want. I can have it come off there harsh. The idea is to not come off harsh really is to almost end it right there. I mean, I can do a number of different things there. Another thing that blends that down a little bit better is if I select this guy, and right here, of course that changed where that guy was at. I select right here and I say opacity 0. That way I don't get any harsh lines off of that corner right there. So yeah, now he's starting to get a little bit more shape to it, and we get a little good shadow there. We can do the same thing to his ear, and just like we duplicated his nose, I'll just hit that, click on it, Control C, or Command C, Command V. Actually, I don't want to paste the, I'm going to double click on the ear, paste it in the ear, we'll just rotate it around. Just do it the quick and easy way. And pretty right out of the gate, that got us where we want. I can go adjust that gradient all I want, but it kind of gives us the effect we want, where it leaves a lighter outline up here and then fades in from the outside to the in. Cool. 2 gradient spots. You can see across here that I can do a light shape. Here I can do it, apply it again to his hat. I can apply it again to his hat back here, and again here to his sideburn. I'll leave that up to you. Let's do one more shape, however. Let's go ahead and get the shadow up here on his mustache. So I'm going to take his mustache shape, double click on it, Command C, Command V. We'll arrange and send that to the back. I'm going to cut that shape, hit the C button, cut, cut, hit V over here, select and delete it. Let's go ahead and close our shape off, grab the pen tool, close from there to there, and we can actually use that hard color we had from before, that dark color, and I'm going to get rid of the outline. And then we'll just make some adjustments to drag it up there behind. In fact, we may want to push it behind the mouth. I think that seems legitimate. So we'll hit the behind tool a little bit more, and we get it behind that dark line of the outside of the mouth. And there you have it. We have Paper Mario. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's been a lot of fun for me. And as I go, I'm going to do shorter ones, longer ones, but I want to hear from you. What do you want to draw? What do you want to see me draw? And then my hope is that every time I'm drawing on here, I'm actually going to give away a lot of the drawing files so you can take a look, take it apart, compare it to yours, and just have some awesome fun. And then some of them I will sell on my Creative Market shop, but those will not be ones that are copyright material like the Nintendo characters. They will be things you can use for your blogs, mom blogs, craft blogs, anything you like to do, design or web. Feel free to follow along. I highly recommend subscribing here to my channel, Trent Draw, and I look forward to seeing you next time.